evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know, the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, my friend.
Hello.
Joined as well by our owner, projectionist, King Jeff. Say hello, Jeff.
Hi, everybody.
As we talked with Mama Beth on one of our most recent podcasts, I opened it up by saying that the off season is very difficult in many ways. It presents a lot of challenges, a lot of different work that we don't do in the on season. But the hardest part really is that the family breaks apart and we go to our different worlds, back to our real lives, if you will. And it really creates a hole in the heart. So anytime that we can bring a family member onto the podcast, it really helps fill that hole. So
right.
Without further ado, welcome the smiling, shining face that you all see at the merch table. Sandy, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Do you have a moniker like Mama Beth does? Do you have like a nickname?
No, I'm sad about that. Can I just say that I need a handle and somebody should help me think of what that should be, because I'm not like, she's got like Mama Beth or Mama Cheeseburger, and I'm just like, hi, I'm Sandy.
We can work something there. Merch, Sandy merch. There's something. We can work an alliteration in there. It'll be good.
Well, maybe some of our customers can give me some suggestions for that too.
Oh, I love that. Sounds like a Patreon poll if I ever heard one.
There you go.
You never know what you're going to get, though. You'll be stuck with something really strange.
This is where I slip in here and I say that if you are listening to this through your audio means, if you go to anchor.fm/Mahoning Drive-In, they have the option to leave a voice message for any reason at any time. But if anybody wants to leave us voice messages with suggested CB handles for Sandy, we'll take those under consideration or delete them with extreme prejudice.
10-4, good buddy. Yeah, we can work on that. But just like it was with Mama Beth, just like it was when we talked to Jeffrey C., we're really going to kind of open up the onion, the layers of the onion that is Sandy, because what you see on the surface at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater is just a little slice. And we want to give them the opportunity to share what they're all about, what they work on in the days and hours that they're away from the Mahoning. So, but before we get to that, how have you been, Sandy?
It's been a stressful off season. Many of the listeners might know that my dad visited quite often before, but last season joined me for over a month at the merch table. He has had a bit of a health issue. He accidentally tripped and fell and had to have some brain surgery. So, you know, it's been an interesting off season, but it's been nice to have the support of people who have asked me how he is or who have checked in with me regularly. So that's why it's really good to have family. So it's nice to see all of you.
Papa Eckert is very loved amongst the Mahoning community, and our heart has been with you, and it's been a back and forth making sure, you know, not only he's okay, but you're okay, because it's a lot to take on with your whole other life. And I've said it personally, I might as well say it here publicly. He's very, very blessed to have you, and we should all be so lucky, you know? So we wish him the best, and we wish the family the best for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will just add one funny story here.
Yeah.
That whenever I'm trying to help him, you know, we're working on cognitive stuff. By the way, he's coming home next Thursday, probably by the time you guys listen to this.
Yes. Success. Beautiful.
But one of the questions that I would ask him would be, and where do I work? And do you know that he would always kind of chuckle and go, you work at the drive-in. So he knows
Can't
how
forget
much,
that.
Yep, he knows how much I love the drive-in.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's great. That's great.
Well, speaking of the drive-in, anything that you got going on? Anything exciting to share with the folks that so look forward to the stuff that you have every single year, every single event? Lots of stuff brewing. Anything you want to let the peeps know?
Well, I guess I can tease a few things. First of all, we just had a meeting to confirm, like some colors and some ideas. I think we're going to do a mix of some colors to make, a little variety on the table.
Yeah.
But I have a few Sandy surprises. I also have something from Victoria, who has been great with adding on a few items. She's going to work on something specific just for opening weekend and the Wizard of Oz. So I'm sure Mark and I will work on some PR to kind of get that out there once we've got a demo to show. And I know most everyone is really looking forward to our popcorn bucket. Beth told me that that's the number one request that she gets in the line at the end of the season. When is the new popcorn?
When's Popper coming?
So Popper number 3 will be coming soon. I was just talking to Jeff about that earlier today. So I'm working on it already. So
Super fun. Cannot wait. Well, any choice memories that you had from last season? I know it all becomes a blur together, but people have to remember Sandy is not just our merch manager. She also handles the guests when they come in. She's the liaison on site between us and the guests. And she also handles the vendors, which is a whole other party to be had. So I'm sure it's a lot.
I would say merch-wise, one of my favorite memories was when we did the cup at Camp Blood. And we had a special drink that Beth concocted. So it was like a nice little joint adventure that Beth and I did. And we had a special drink cup with Jason's face on it. And then she came up with the drink, I came up with the cup. And then we had people that were waiting in line outside the concession stand, peeking in. And I'll never forget, I'm standing outside with some guests and talking to them about where their chairs are going to go. And I'm like, what are these people doing? They were waiting for the door to open so that they could be first in line to get the cup.
Oh.
And it was one of my favorite memories.
Amazing.
I have a lot of really good memories. I really loved when Kathy and Kelly came for.
Oh my gosh, what a dream weekend that was. Jesus. Yeah.
That was fantastic. They are some of my favorite guests. We had a ball sitting outside, even though it was a little cold and a little wet. And, then it got hot. So we went through all the phases of weather that weekend, like we often do at the Mahoning. And that was super fun as well. I enjoy all the aspects of my job, except maybe all of the emails. But now that I know the people behind the emails, it's really nice when they write to me and they say, "Hi, Sandy," when they want to talk about vending. So even that has become enjoyable too.
It's personable, and it also adds to the experience and the love of the Mahoning. We talk to a lot of owners in our owners series now, and that's one thing that they say. It's from the interaction on the lot, as well as that interaction that Mark handles and you handle as far as the emails, the questions, this and that. Having a person that you know and can relate to, I think it goes the extra mile to say, like, again, the familial family aspect of it all.
Right. I have people already writing about VHS Fest going, I know you're not taking applications yet, but I need to know that I already have some raffle ideas planned. So come by the table, Sandy, and let me know. So these people are all terrific with wanting to help the drive-in as well as, be a part of the drive-in. So I think that's also a really great thing about what I do, that it kind of blends together. The raffle, the merch, the vendors, it kind of all does become a unit.
Yeah. And it keeps everything fresh every day. That's one thing that definitely rings true with the owners is it's not a desk job, and some of them work actual desk job. The guy we talked to yesterday from the Silver Moon Drive-In in Florida, he works at a grocery store. That's his main job. But then he gets to run 2 drive-ins, as his side gig. And it, if anything, gives him this excitement outside of work, even though it's still work. It's very difficult to relate work and what we do at the drive-in because it's so much love goes into what we do, not just to keep the Mahoning alive and the legend alive and the bar alive that we've set, but also to appease those customers who have become truly family members, and a lot of them now staff. I mean, that was the case with you, with Mama Beth, with Mark, with pretty much everybody down the line. So it goes a really long way to be extra personable and extra careful with every single step and every question that you answer. So,
well, that's why I love my job. I enjoy being productive, of course, and I don't mind juggling, but I genuinely love being on the site and talking to those customers. You know, I have a relationship with some of them where it's like they come in to tell me what they did since last week when I talk to them. Like, we have actual personal conversations every week, and they show me pictures of like what their kids did in school. For Christmas in July, I have one family that brings me cookies, you know. Yep. I mean, it's a delight, and I think I derive energy from that interaction. I enjoy it a lot.
It's good for the soul. And again, talking about the off season and the intro, it's like that's the thing that's missing. It's like there is a light and an energy that connection with the audience brings, that when you don't have it, it's a total void, and you're like, why am I sad today? It's like, oh right, I haven't had that, itch scratched in months. So it'll be really great to get back on the lot. Anything you've seen, some stuff that's been announced, that hasn't been announced, anything that you're looking forward to for this year? Anything hit your fandom where you're like, oh my gosh, can't wait for this?
Oh, you guys know what my answer is going to be before I even say it. The remake double take, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It is probably one of my very favorite series ever. Yep. I am a huge fan. I've done numerous writings on Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the novel, because it's got such a very interesting story. It was not originally a book. It was a column in Collier's magazine, and it was so popular, that they ran it again. Like back in the day, they would run things numerous times in the newspapers. And from this popularity, they decided to merge it together, and he rewrote it to make it a novel. And pretty much while he was rewriting it, they came to him with the movie deal for the first movie. And I've been fascinated by the changes that have taken place in the numerous adaptations. That's one of my favorite things to talk about, is adaptations over time and how it reflects society. And, so I'm definitely excited for that. And I'm hoping to talk James into making me a pod. I want in the photo op. So
it's a must, again, with that bar being set, if there's not a pod there, people are going to be like, what's happening? Is James okay?
That's why I thought I'd say it, because if I say it right now, he'll be like, oh, geez, now Sandy's pressuring
I love it. Well, the raffles are a humongous part of what you do as well. And at this point, we work with so many outside entities with raffle donations. It's the easiest way for a company to get together with our brand promotion wise. But beyond that, you now have so many individual kind of local companies that will come to you and be like, hey, I have this for the raffle, or, the guy who makes the characters. Can you talk on that a little bit?
We get a lot of really interesting donations for the raffle. And I know that we were just talking about Stitch Witch the other day. And she friended me on Facebook. So hi. And I think that what's really interesting is that, the fans get so excited that they spend their free time making things, putting something together so that they could contribute something that they love to the raffle. And those are always my favorite items that we put in there. Not that I don't love the things that Mark and I, kind of find or put together. I love what we do. And we have a pretty good system going with trying to find at least one unique item to buy for each show. But it's those personal items from those companies that really matter. I know Victoria Lai, I mentioned her earlier when I was doing my teaser. She also has created some really interesting items that are unique, one-of-a-kind homemade items for our raffles. And those are my favorite things because people come by and pick them up and look at them and ask me where they came from. We have a gaming company who has some zombie themed games who donates like a whole box of them. And throughout the season, Mark and I will randomly pick them when they're appropriate to put in the raffle. And customers love these because they can't get this sort of thing anywhere else or at a store near them. This is unique and different. And that's what I think makes our raffles really fun. It's not a chore for me, or I don't feel bad, suggesting to buy tickets, because I know the stuff in the raffle is quality, really good stuff that for $1 to try or $5 in the pot, you could win, all of this really wonderful stuff and homemade stuff from some of our fans and companies.
Yeah. And it's almost invaluable, like we could say, hey, this is a $200 prize pack, but in some of those cases, it's like leftover fright rag stuff that's ungettable now. It's one of a kind handmade stuff. It's become such a draw on its own that it's crazy. People will wait in line. They will make sure that they come back every time they come through the line, because it's like, I just got a little bit of change. Here's an extra $3.
I have customers. So here, let's talk about that. I have customers who have a system. Some people want to be first in line.
Yeah.
Some people want to buy them in a chunk, like 20 tickets. I have other people who will come by 5 times, and they have like a magic number of like, I have to do it here, 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 and here. And they all have a system for how they want to buy their raffle tickets. And I think that that's the joy for them, that even if they don't win, like, it was the fun of how they come up with the system in their mind of how they're going to buy tickets. And,
the placement in the bucket where it's going to fall.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I stepped in once and somebody came up and said that. They said, we do it in layers. We like to have our tickets in various layers of the bucket. Okay.
It's a good tactic.
Yeah. And I think that is also why the raffle has really taken off too, is that the fun that the people are having with getting the tickets is part of it. It's like my whole goal with merch in general. It isn't that I'm selling a thing. I'm selling a memory. That, you'll remember how much fun you had tonight, when you look back at the cute little VHS nightlight, or, you got coasters that you keep, like right now. The very first coaster that I ever made.
Love it.
I have them right here, and I use them for my coffee every day. And I think that that's what I get joy in selling, is that it becomes a part of their home, it becomes a part of their daily lives, that it brings joy. And I think the raffle is definitely part of that joy.
Oh, 100%. I love it. I love doing this podcast because it inspires. It really does. It uplifts to every single expectation that we want this company to be. And we're so blessed to have the people that we have in this company, because it's such a strange setup, to show people a little behind the curtain. When we went into this, we didn't have a plan at all. And when we went to a group management system, we certainly didn't have a plan. It was like, okay, there are some people who have a certain skill set that falls nicely into this department. And we never really gave anybody a set standard, a set kind of, hey, here's the way to do it. I mean, there's a standard as far as the way we've done things up till now, but the way that you guys have created your departments and crafted your departments out of nothing is so inspiring. And it makes me just so proud in the position that I'm in. And with Jeff, it's just amazing to see you guys run,
We definitely have the right people around us. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Everybody who's here is meant to be here, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I know that we went to the audience, which we do often when we bring family members in, the Patreoners. Did we get any questions or anything for Sandy from them?
We got a doozy. Mistress Zeneca asks, how do you choose what products to get for the merch table? What type of profits do you usually aim for? And what's your favorite item so far?
Ooh, that is a loaded one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. How do I choose products? I start by looking for something that I would want to buy myself. Then I kind of go with whoever I'm working with to purchase that, because usually I can ask questions to find out more about, like, how many of these do you think I could sell? What would the base cost be? Do I think that this is a long-term or short-term item? Is this a one-night item that I would just want to market really heavily for that 1 week? Or is this something that I want as a standard? I call it a standard item on our table. And I have a set of standards if you've ever been to the table, because I know that koozies are always super popular. People carry around their soda that they buy at the concession stand, or their beer that they bring with them, and you like a nice koozie to use. So I have things like coasters and koozies. And one of the most interesting examples of finding something by asking questions was the VHS nightlight. I said I wanted to find something that was a little on the higher end for like a good keepsake that you would want from like your favorite show of the year. And I said, so if we sell a koozie and you buy that for, $5, that's something that you can easily say that's a nice add-on. But like, if I really wanted to kind of hit the market of like, I can't wait for Camp Blood, or I can't wait for Zombie Fest, or I can't wait for Remake Double Take, I wanted to have something that you could buy that would be like, I'm going to sit this on my shelf. So I talked to Spiral Rewind and Chris Severn, and I kind of explained this idea. And he said, I could modify something that I do at my store. And he showed me a demo, and that's kind of how I did it. And then it's all about negotiating. I think that was the second part of the question. Like, what kind of profit margin am I looking for? I can't sell something that we're going to make $1 on. So it kind of has to fit in this niche of, do I think that it's a reasonable price that a family or a couple would want to come to the drive-in after they've bought their popcorn, after they bought their t-shirt, that they would want to buy? So it has to fit in this price range, but it also has to be something that once we've paid for it, that we're also going to make enough money that it made it worthwhile for me to invest time in getting it on the table. Right. So I don't have a set amount of profit that I'm looking for, but it just has to be worth the time and energy to be able to give back enough profit for what we spent, both time-wise and energy-wise, like for Mark advertising it on our social media, and for me to be able to put it on the table. So it just depends, whether it's a kitschy item, like a keychain. I have a new keychain coming this year. I think.
I can't wait. It's awesome.
Right.
Or something bigger like the VHS nightlight, for example.
Right.
Excellent.
Now, was there a third part to that? I think I lost the third part to the question.
The third part is, what's your favorite item so far?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
This year or just in general? That's a multi-answer for sure.
Well, I would say overall, the VHS nightlight, I think I own one myself. I think that it's a very unique and clever thing if you are a retro movie lover and you remember the joy of the video cassette, or when it got stuck in your VCR and trying to pull it out. And yeah, so I have one of those myself, and I love those. I always suggest those when somebody's looking for something special. But I would say a unique one-time only item that would be my favorite item. Do you guys remember when for Vamp Party, I did the ginger ale blood bag?
Oh my God, were they a hit? I think they were there for like an hour tops because everybody needed it.
And explain what exactly that was and how it looked for our audio friends.
So it kind of looked like a bag in the hospital that you would be donating blood, and the blood goes in the blood bag with the tube up to the blood bag.
IV style, yeah.
Yes, but in that was the blood, quote unquote, air quotes here, and it was a mixture of cherry juice and ginger ale. And it was just this idea that I had in my head that you could drink it on the lot and look like you were drinking blood. But, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Stand with a little funnel and pour in the juice. And
oh, my goodness.
And it was so difficult to do that I made, I think, 25 of them and said, oh, my God, I'm never doing this again. I brought them on Friday thinking they would last me Friday and Saturday. And they were gone in like an hour. And I'm like, oh, no, I got to make more for tomorrow. But it's probably my favorite thing because I thought it really worked well. And it was almost all profit because I got the juice and the ginger ale myself. So it was a really fun item.
Those one-offs are such a great move, and it's what people clamor for. It makes an event in a weird way to say like, it's cool to watch zombie movies, but to do it while eating a Zomburger or sipping, you know what I mean? To have that themed item really does make it. And that crosses over with even offering the merch to begin with. I remember going to Jeff at a certain point and saying, you know, me and Nancy go to these overnight 3-day music concerts where we'll set up our tent and bands will play all through the day and night. And, you know, you would have something, not just a memory that lasted a long time, but you could also get something as far as the merch to go home with. And, you know, I think maybe even at that time I was wearing the t-shirt, but that really kind of sparked it off where it's like, what if we added an element of like rock concert to what we do at the Mahoning? And it was one of those things now that's become such a standard, you know, for us to not offer posters or t-shirts or, you know, memorabilia to take home with you would just be so not us. But it's amazing how those things kind of come around, you know, or come into the fold.
Yeah.
So let's change gears. Just like Superman has his two sides with his Clark Kent moniker, so does Sandy. So what's the deal? What do you actually do for your day job? And please let the audience and really us know what you do as far as your author role.
I'm a teacher. That's how I would frame it. But I guess my technical title is I'm a professor. I work at East Stroudsburg University. I moved from Maryland, which is where I'm from, to take a job. I believe I talked about this in my first podcast.
Yes, yeah.
So I teach English and I teach writing, and I talk all about like how the intersections between pop culture and great literature and, you know, understanding the themes of human life, the universal themes of what we are as people. I kind of meld all of that together in what I teach so that hopefully my students feel like they have something interesting to talk about, to write about. So that's kind of, you know, my day job. I also run the writing studio, which is a tutoring spot, so that students on campus can say, I'm working on my paper, where could I go to have another reader, or I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, I need to brainstorm, and I train the tutors. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. You know, I have a multifaceted job there too. I guess I'm just the person that multitasks all the time. So I run the tutoring program and I teach classes as well, you know, and my favorite class to teach, I'd say, would probably either be writing about young adult literature, because I love talking about especially those supernatural books, you know, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or, you know, the Divergent series, or Harry Potter. I enjoy all of that. So I enjoy teaching that class for future teachers. And I also really enjoy teaching the capstone teaching of writing. So I teach future teachers like about the history of writing instruction in the United States, and, you know, what it means to be a writing teacher and some ways to think outside the box.
And how did that all come to be? Is that something that you pursued? Is it always a path that you went on? Did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher?
Oh, yeah. My dad was a teacher.
Yeah.
He taught math. Interestingly enough, I am anti-math. I don't.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I always wanted to be a teacher, and I used to go with him on Saturdays when he would go to teach, I guess, you know, the delinquents. But, you know, to me, that was super fun. You know, I loved it. And I would go up and play on the chalkboard and everything while he was doing his math lessons or doing rec league. And I just thought it was the best job in the world. Yeah. However, I think right around, I'd say high school-ish, I was going to be Indiana Jones. So that was my big thing. And I became a medievalist. That's what my master's degree is in.
Yes.
So I learned Sanskrit. I learned Old English. I could translate Latin.
Wow.
And then people told me, well, you know, if you go out on an archaeological dig, there are no bathrooms and you're going to be sleeping in a tent and it's dirty. And I went, I think not.
That sounds like a weekend at the Mahoning, actually. So it actually prepared you ultimately.
Yeah.
There you go. So
that's fantastic. Now, when did the crossover happen as far as either the bug to write or the bug to take writing to the next level and look for publishing?
Well, right around the time that I was really on the serious side, determining that I didn't want to just do medieval literature for the rest of my life. Right
Yeah.
around that time, I was kind of thinking about what it was that did interest me. And I was in a master's level class, and it was on writing and popular culture. And I remember they said, you can pick any film that you want to write about, and we're going to write about it using these trends. And I'll never forget where I was standing. And he goes, Sandy, you know you could write about speed. And I went, you mean for class? And he goes, yes. And I remember that was a revolutionary moment for me, because I compared Annie from Speed to Marion from the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
And talking about how women as characters had changed so much since, you know, the James Bond days, where it was like you were objectified, and women were either you're going to die, you're the love interest, you're the secretary, and how it had become you're an actual person who's affecting the plot and has a role. And that changed my life, because that project showed me that I could do work, quote unquote, and have fun at the same time. And that kind of led me to, like, I want to teach like this. Like, my students would like talking about things like this. So that when I went back to get my doctorate, I focused on composition and rhetoric as my basic theme. And I studied how to run a writing center, but I also studied composition theory and how to teach using popular culture. So it kind of all just kind of melded together into, this is what Sandy does. She talks about things like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Speed in the same sentence.
Yeah.
I love it. For those who don't know, that is Sandy's number one. We tried to do the Keanu Fest and actually pop the bubble on it, because we ran into an issue with getting Speed, and it was like, we can't do Keanu Fest and not play Speed. Sandy will go crazy.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can get it at some point. I know I mentioned it to Harry, and Harry was like, I can get you that. Let me see if I can get that. So I'm hoping at some point in time we could have a lovely weekend. I know Rob has told me that he even has a plan for how we could do like a comedy night, an action night, a Matrix night.
Yeah.
You know, so we could have all the Keanu genres, and I could just sit and drool for a while.
So the merch item would be the Keanu bib that weekend.
It'd be terrific.
Yeah.
Or we could have a doll. We could make a Keanu doll that you could snuggle while you're watching Keanu.
Oh, that's a winner. It's a winner.
But yes, so Speed is my favorite movie. I think it's the perfect popcorn movie. It's not too deep. It's not too heavy. It's not too long. And I think that it just has a little bit of everything to like in it. A little bit of all the human emotions, from like becoming, you know, a better version of yourself if you need to be, but also, you know, a little bit of comedy and romance. So I think it's really fun.
Can't go wrong with that.
Nope.
Now, when was the first time, or what was the first project that you were able to get out there in the world, as far as the book goes?
You mean like a real thing?
Yeah.
So I would say it usually takes someone else to help you get started.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I wrote was a chapter from my writing center director, Ben Rafith. He was doing one of his books on writing center theory. And he asked me, you know, like if I would write a chapter in this book about how to train tutors or how to, you know, tutor effectively. And I remember I was all about narrative theory at this point in my life. Like I go through phases, and I was all about like, what is the power of the story, and why are stories things that we tell all the time?
Yeah.
And I ended up writing about the 3 different types of stories that you can tell as a tutor. And one of those is fictive stories. And of course, I use The Matrix in mine. Pulling Keanu Reeves. But I found that, you know, that's kind of how I've always kind of blended in pop culture with what I'm doing, because I think that that's the unique thing that binds all of us together. That you can be a doctor, you can be a construction worker, and you can go and laugh at a movie together and enjoy it, or you can go see a scary movie and feel like it's the ride of your life. And I think that, you know, film has a great power to be a release or a fun experience or a way to work out your emotions in some way.
I'm so jealous of all of your students. You seem like that teacher that like would just lift you up and be like, I always wished for that teacher that was on that same level with the love of movies and the obsessive love of movies and pop culture, like you said. And when a teacher matches that or is at that same level with you, that's just must be so inspiring for them.
Well, it's midterm right now. They're not too happy with me right now.
Most of the time, right?
But I mean, I've had some really interesting classes. I mean, I did the works of Joss Whedon back before he was a jerk. I've had a Buffy course. My favorite one I think I've ever done is the myth of Superman.
Yes.
Did the history of Superman and ended with, of course, you knew I was going to get here, Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's vision for Superman. And my students loved it so much. I had people writing to me years afterwards going like, my friend, my brother needs to take a course. And, are you going to be offering that one again? And I'd get emails and I'd be like, not right now, but oh yeah, I try to take the things that I really enjoy and that I found value in and make students see that, studying poems or studying literature doesn't have to be boring. We can throw these other things in and find the same value in how to find a universal theme or how to look at a character differently or how to see plot structure so that then when you watch TV, like, you'll kind of know, like, a show has a specific point that it has. It's not just, something that they throw together. It's deliberate. And I think that that's really what I enjoy talking about with literature and screenplays and pop culture. I see it all as the same. And I think that's kind of a change, from some of my teachers where they were like, only Shakespeare is amazing, and I think there is value in Zack Snyder or in Quentin Tarantino. I think he's a genius. So I really think that there's a lot of different ways to look at literature.
When I was in college, a class and a teacher turned me totally on my an ability to pivot, if you will, a way of looking and analyzing movies. The name of that class was The Literary Vision of Film. And we would watch the movie and break it down in a very, literary fashion, find the themes, this and that. And as far as a writer, somebody who was aspiring to be a screenwriter at that time, it just opened up my whole entire world and vision of, what it means to work in these overlying themes and higher power themes, universal themes, into your story, into what you were trying to tell. And I have a feeling that, taking a class with you would be that same type of way where it's like, I can relate on this level,
Hopefully.
Well, it's a little segue since you talked about Zack Snyder. One of your most recent books that you put out was focused on Lois Lane. And I do want everybody to know the works that you've done. So how did you get to the Lois Lane project?
Well, I mean, as a little girl, that was like seminal for me when I would see Superman with Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. And I remember even at a very young age, I thought Margot Kidder was the bee's knees. I thought she was smart and, she had a role. Again, this idea, I really enjoy looking at women in film who have a role. They're not just the love interest. Yeah. And I think even as a little girl, that's what fascinated me about her, is that she was always trying to figure out who Superman was or to figure out what was going on in the world around her. And then I started reading comics, like once you like something, then you buy the toys and, people would give you those little records, like those little tiny, records with the storybook in it.
The read-along records. Yeah, the book and records those were huge when we were kids. Those were great.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of these and I started collecting things like Superman and different stories about that and Batman and things like that. And, at the time it was very unusual to have a girl who liked comics. And, we've exploded now recently, in like everybody loves Marvel. But, back in the day, I would go in the comic book shop to pick up something and I would just get stares like there's
They'd be like, a girl.
A girl here. But yeah, so I always enjoyed it. And, I did a presentation one time, again, talking about women. And I started just talking about Amy Adams and Lois Lane, and it just was so popular. I can remember I had to have a microphone, and it scared me because I was at Rutgers. Like, we're talking like high end college, and I'm like, I thought I was just giving a presentation to my usual 12 people, and I had to have a microphone to do my portion of the presentation. And afterwards they came up to me and said, we would be interested in having you do a book. And I'm like, me?
Mind blower.
Went from there. Once they look you up and they see you've already done some writing and that you're not a quack, then it's like, now I don't even have to like write a proposal. People just kind of, say, hey, Sandy's the expert on Peggy Carter, or, do you know who knows Pepper Potts more than anybody else? That would be Sandy. Call her. So, that's kind of how it all started. And I think some of my most fun things I've done lately would be Pepper Potts, because I'm a big fan of Iron Man 3, and I think she doesn't get nearly enough credit as a character. So I really like writing about her. And of course, I think probably the thing I've written about more than anything else is Lois Lane. From the history of the character to her in print and TV and film to my love of Zack Snyder's version with Amy Adams. I know, don't write in and tell people how crazy I am.
It's a perfect marriage of all your loves. Just like in a way that you teach, this was a way to kind of bring together everything that you love into a project. It's exciting. It's really cool.
I enjoy it. Now, it's the same as anything else. I don't like it while I'm doing it. And I'm always like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. And then as soon as it's born, then I look at it and I go, oh my God, that was the best thing ever. When's the next one I can do?
Yeah. And to have something tangible that you can look at and say, this is something I did. This is something I worked on and put my heart and soul in. And it's fantastic. I mean, it goes to a whole other level. That's what it was like when I was in the band. And as amazing as the experiences were on the road and playing and this and that, when we got that physical album and it was like, whoa, you can put this on the shelf with the other albums and it's real. And it really does. It's a whole other level of accomplishment, So as far as your projects, do you go about it now, or are you thinking about going about it where you start with a project in hand and work on a book to release versus something project being presented to you?
I go by what I'm the most interested in. So a colleague and I saw The Lost City, the movie with Sandra Bullock. Yes. And we enjoyed it and started talking about how a woman in her 50s was the lead actress in a romantic comedy with a man who's in his 30s. And yet nobody really said anything about the fact that they had an age difference, because it was just a fun, light comedy, and we just kept talking about it. So I think my next book is good. We call it fondly the Sandy B book. And we're going to trace her history as an actress and the different types of roles she's had over time, and why she is one of the few who could break the barrier of like, she's over 35 and still working.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the next project. So it usually starts with something that I just obsess over and find.
That's your wheelhouse.
So that's what I think. And of course, then they were like, so do you want to do the speed chapter? And I'm like, maybe. But then again, I might pick something unusual, that somebody else doesn't want to pick. I also like Practical Magic. And I think that that's also a fantastic film too.
Nobody's going for that Forces of Nature chapter.
That would be a good one too.
What about Bionic Showdown?
That might be fun.
Well, I want to make sure that we have time for Jeff and Mark to pick your brain as well. But before we do, why don't you let people know, do you have a place where people can find your work? Do you have this kind of hub where people can check out what you're doing? I would say give your Instagram handle, but we know we're working on that.
I don't have that. But I have a publisher that pretty much all of my books, except for like my original ones, are at Rowman and Littlefield. They do a lot of academic publishing on things like pop culture and, teaching and stuff. So you could go there, but I hate doing this. But it's also on Amazon. So if you just kind of plug in my name on Amazon, I'm there. And I think all 6 or the most recent 5 of my books or something like that are on Amazon.
Great.
And let people know, what are all the books? I know we covered a couple of them, but what is the full bibliography?
No, nobody cares about.
All right, Mark, you got any questions for Sandy?
I was just going to ask you to list the names of your books.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know that I can list them all right off the top of my head. I published my dissertation called The Ties That Bind, Storytelling, because I like storytelling.
Yeah.
And then I believe the next one was called Yin and Yang in the English Classroom. And that was teaching was the yin and pop culture was my idea. And I believe that my chapter in that one was on Full Circle, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, love it.
And then what came next? I had so many ideas. They gave me a 3-book deal called Comic Connections, and it was all about using comics and pop culture and movies in the classroom. And there were 3 of those. And my favorite I liked them all. They were all my babies, but I liked women. The women in pop culture was my favorite one there because, of course, I've told you I really like writing about women.
Right.
And then my most recent one it's called The Human in Superhuman. It's about sidekicks that have no power in the story, but yet sometimes they're the most important force in the story because they're what give the heart or the counterbalance to the superpowered hero, like Lois Lane.
I love that. I have a feeling people are going to be bringing up some books to get signed this year.
Oh no!
It's revealing a whole other side. That's why I love doing this. It's like a deep dive into who we really are. When we're on the lot and we're in it, it's just like we're all going, we're all on, So to take
I'm dirty and my hair is sweaty.
Your feet are wet. It's always something on the lot. So it's nice to be able to take a little bit of a breather. Jeff, anything for Sandy?
Now, I was curious what she thought her hardest book to write was. What took her the longest because it was really hard to write?
I would say this last one because I started it with the authors. I have people writing different chapters from all over the world.
Yeah.
And it kind of started in 2018 with the proposal being accepted. So we had authors and looked at proposals in early 2019. So you see where I'm going. That then the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for anyone to stay focused long enough to say I'm existing, much less, by the way, I got this writing project on the side. So it really kind of started in 2018 and it took until, January to really get it in people's hands. So it was a really long process, but it might also be one that I'm really proud of because we all stuck with it. I didn't lose any authors as a result of the pandemic. So it was really a great way to say that we were all united and really making it come to life.
That's beautiful.
That's great. Yeah, way to hang in there.
Well, even with running the drive-in, one of the greatest gifts that we have is folks coming and saying that our story inspires them. And we can see it launching ships within our community and within our fan base. And it's, in a weird way, has a crossover with the podcast now that we're getting that response that people are inspired by these interviews. So I think a good way to end it, if I were a student or a student were to come up to you and say, how do I stay on the path or get some inspiration to be an author? Do you have any inspirational words for somebody who might be looking to get into things that you're into, whether it's teaching or writing?
Well, I guess my advice would be the same no matter what it was that you wanted to do, that you have to pick something, I think, in life that you love. Whether that's something like teaching that you have to go to school for, or it's something like I want to learn to play piano. I think you have to pick something that you love And then you have to realize that there's going to be long hours and hard work involved in that. And if you say, I know that I have to focus and put these hours in, but then I'm going to make it fun because this is something I love. And I think that that's really the key to joy, which is probably my favorite word. The key to anything and finding joy in it is just that you started with something that you're passionate about that sparkles to you. And then even when it is hard, even when you feel like, you know, this is a long road and I'm never going to get to the end of it, you remember why you started it in the first place. Like, I feel like my whole life has led me to the drive-in, really, in a way, because it's what I love. I love standing and geeking out and talking about characters and movies and screenplays. And, you know, I just think that it's really fun. So whether I'm in my classroom talking about like how to design a theme, or if I'm at the drive-in saying how much, you know, I had never seen this movie and I really enjoyed watching it, I think that, you know, that's kind of how I connect with the world around me and the people that are in it. And that's why I love our customers, because I get to do that.
It's beautiful. Well, Sandy, you are a joy, and we can't thank you enough for making the time for us, of course, but also opening up your heart for the audience and every single customer that comes to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater.
I enjoy it. Thank you.
We love you. And on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.